can get set up to, you can kind of get past a lot of steps. So you could be thinking about one step and 5 steps ahead. So answer, or raise your hand, or do this, or do a chat, or do that little hand thing. And then they didn't know this before, but Audra and Justine are gonna help me with any questions that kind of come up too. So, all right, well, we're gonna jump right in. So I'm just checking out my list of people that we've got. So perfect. We have mostly people that are new to our brand. And so this will be very much geared to, just like the class is back to the basics. So I'm going to start from step 1, and I'll log into Dotloop and I'll talk a little bit about what Dotloop is and why it's really important to us as a brokerage, and how it's going to help make your business more efficient. So if you haven't logged on to Dotloop before, you're going to want to do that either now or after the session. And Dotloop is what basically is our e-signature platform, and where it houses all of our templates. But it does so much more than that. And so I'll touch on a few of those things that I really like the features of Dotloop about, but most of this is going to be based on how you can use it at its core level. And then I do a Dotloop tips and tricks class that has kind of a lot of those fun, cool features that's going to even speed up your efficiency when it comes to doing a transaction or needing signatures. So I'm going to pop in, I'm going to share my screen really quick. All right, can everybody see my screen? We're all good? So this is our main Dotloop page. So mine's gonna be a lot busier than everyone else's because I've done a lot of trainings and a lot of loops. So yours will most likely be just a few loops at this point. And you can change the view. So here I have quite a few different loops, but I can change the view here from grid view to list view. And then I can make it even more compact if I wanted to. So this is going to be up to you and how you like to use it. I like the bigger views here because I can see a little bit more in what I'm doing. You can also create a lot of filters, and that's going to help you as you're getting through more transactions. So it's really important to label your loops so that when you're in your dashboard and you have hundreds of loops from different avenues, that you can easily find the ones that you're looking for. So we're going to start though with just by adding a loop. So this button over here on the right, and if you need to adjust your zoom view, you might want to do that and make it just a little teeny tinies. Unless you want to see all of our faces, that's cool too. So what we do, we're going to hit add loop. And we are going to do, let's see, what should we do today? Well, I'm at Dundee, so why don't we do Dundee today? So 4949 Underwood. Now, if this were an actual live listing, it's going to pull the information from the MLS. This is pulling it from Google Maps. If I knew a property that was active right now, I would pull that up to show you, because you want to choose the one that's from the MLS because it will give you a little bit more information that autofills than if you were to just create it as is. So I'm just going to use our Google Maps autofill and just hit continue. Now the loop template we're going to use is we're going to do purchase. Now we do have a few different templates in here, and it's all kind of based on what you are needing. Your listing and your purchase obviously are going to be those that you use the most. And each one of these templates has only the documents that you need, that are needed for every single conversation or every single transaction. So in every single transaction, there are documents that are required by both Nebraska and Iowa, and those are a little bit different. That's why we have an Iowa listing and purchase versus your just general listing and purchase, which we use on the Nebraska side. So all of those documents are going to be your core, and those are the ones that we need to have filled out. Now, keep in mind, there could be some other documents that you need to have in order to keep kind of things moving with your transaction. For example, VA certification or lead-based paint disclosure. So there are some of those things that you'll just want to keep in mind as you're going and working across that you want to add that. So we're just going to do a purchase here. And got a couple chats. Hold up. Oh, Kelly. Oh, I was late to the party. Kelly gave me a listing to look up. All right, so we're just going to stick with the purchase. You can upload a photo, which I do recommend because as you saw on my main page, everything kind of looks exactly the same. And so if you add a picture of the home or even something that just will let you recognize which loop it is, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Also because there's a lot more agents in Omaha using Dotloop. And that's Dotloop's kind of Achilles heel in that there's not really a good way when you have two agents that are working within Dotloop, sharing files between themselves. There's not really a good way to have those loops be in one spot. So having your photo on yours is going to give you a more of a visual representation of, okay, this is the loop that I created that I'm sharing from, and this is the loop that the other agent has created and is sharing from. Now, my goal eventually is to add more trainings with us and then start training at the OABR level so that we can have more insight on how to work together when there are two agents that use Dotloop, because there's a few ways that we can do things that will make it a lot easier as long as we have both agents familiar with how to use the Dotloop portion of it. So I'm going to keep moving on. We'll go here. Okay, we've got our loop. I'm not going to change anything here because I want to do that when we're actually in the loop. So now we just click view your loop. This is going to take you to the template. So as you can see, there are documents here. And like I said, that's our core. And then there's another folder for final documents submit for review. That is what we'll be talking about a little bit later, but these are all placeholders. They are not live documents. We're going to start at the top. So up here, we have your address, obviously. If you like, you can edit this. So you just click on it and this will take you to the details page. And the details page is going to be important as you're moving along through the transaction because it has everything that's going to be auto-filled throughout your templates. So for example, this will come in handy and you'll want to just keep in the back of your mind if you're doing if you have multiple offers that you've been writing with one client. So my suggestion is, well, it can be done one of two ways, is that you create one loop with different folders, or you can create a different loop for each house that they wrote on. But either way, you want to make sure that you're checking your details because you could change the name of this here. So let's just say we change this to training on 7/28. Okay, so now it changed my title of my loop, but it's not going to change my property address. So we could have been on that first page, changed the loop address, thinking that that's going to do that autofill piece, but that's not going to tie into where your address and autofill settings are. So just keep that in mind as you're going. You also like it here, the loop name, you can use property address as well. I usually don't do more with the details at this point because as you fill in your documents, Dotloop is smart. It knows that if you're filling in, say, the legal address, and that's an autofill somewhere else, Dotloop then knows that it's going to save that. So I like to fill out the paperwork first and then see if there's anything that I need to maybe fill in the gaps for when it comes to this details page. So we'll go back to our loop. Now you want to change your loop status. We're going to go to pre-offer. And then you can also, you can change this as you get through, other pieces, obviously. Once you're under pre-offer, under contract, utilizing these tabs here is going to make it a lot easier, like I was mentioning, on that dashboard page, because then you can search by only those that are, say, under contract. And then you can use that as a weekly checklist to make sure that you're doing everything that you need for your anything that's under contract. So I'm just going to go over kind of the basics of the loop and how it's set up. Like I said, up top here is our, oh, I didn't mean to click on that. Up top here is our label. So this piece here, this is going to be our label, and that's a different section. And then you have your documents tab, and you have different folders within your documents. So this makes it easy to organize and keep things separate. You can always add a folder if you like. And then we also have our placeholders. This is what you're going to be using when you're submitting for review with us. And then we have commission processing, and that'll be obviously as you close. So this is your documents portion. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of your Dotloop loop. And then as you scan down, you'll get a little bit more familiar with other pieces of it. So escrow title, that will link straight to green title. And then you have your people here as well. So you can do it where you add your people ahead of time, which I do recommend. And then if you scan below that, you have your tasks. So we automatically have a task list that pops through this because we use this on our end when the auditor walks in unannounced. And you can add a task list if you like. I'm probably not going to get to the task list portion of things today, but feel free to play around with that. You can either add your own or you can load a template that we already have pre-existed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back up to the purchase folder, and we're going to go as if we were writing a purchase agreement. So I'm not going to start with my escrow sheet. I'm going to start with my purchase agreement, and that's just habit. So you can use this however you like, and you'll get into kind of a groove of what makes sense in how you are working within your business. And you can always add documents here. You can move them around. You can archive. You can have this as messy as you want, this purchase folder. It can be as messy as you want, or it can be as clean and buttoned up as you want. So this is your working folder. You want to think of that top folder as your working folder. We don't use that unless we're missing something. This middle folder here with the final documents is only to be used when you have everything fully executed. So all signatures, and then you'll drag that down. So we'll start with our purchase agreement here. And now it's going to ask me to autofill. So like I was mentioning earlier, it's a lot easier to add a person prior to getting into the autofill, but if not, you can do that here. So we'll just do, we're gonna add someone. Justine's gonna buy this building from us. Oh, Justine, we'll do Justine Bragg. Okay, she's a buyer. Do not ever add to my team. So what this little checkbox does when you add to your team, it lets your client see everything. Now, the great thing about Dotloop is that you can only, without that button checked, you can share only certain documents that you want your clients to see and sign. So if you're kind of a not as organized work through person, you don't necessarily want your clients to be confused when they get into the loop because they're on your team. So I always say, don't ever check that button unless it's an assistant or you're working with another agent directly on that transaction. So if you're partnering up on it. You can fill in information if you like. I typically don't because there's not very many places where the phone number and their old address fills in. So I usually just add their name, email address, and whatever role they are, and then just add person. Okay, and now we scan down, we can see that it is the 4949 Underwood. We do want that. If there were a unit number, we could do that as well. You can fill in the closing date, or you can just kind of move along within the transaction as you want. So we'll just do autofill. Okay, so then we'll just go through. I'm going to do this quickly because we're not really doing a purchase agreement class, we're doing a Dotloop class. Adding all of these things. You can see in yellow, those are pulling from an autofill. The legal description is not yellowed, but it is one of those that fills in. So lot 4, section 32, Sunflower Heights, I don't know. We'll make that up. Okay, so I'm going to do that here, and then you can see at the bottom that the initials are already assigned. So if you had one buyer or two buyers, they are already going to be ready to roll there. And it's going to do that for all of the documents. If you ever notice anything that's not doing it correctly, then just let us know, because sometimes Dotloop decides to forget what we've done, but most of the time everything is pre-autofilled and ready to roll. Okay, so you can keep scanning down and then keep going all the way to your signature pieces, and then just make sure you've got all this information filled out here. Now, here we go. This buyer agent info, and actually I'm gonna do a quick sidebar. Justine, is this part of an autofill piece? Because it might be that I did not assign myself as a purchase.
I apologize. So the buyer's agent, that area right there, I believe that it is.
So I think I didn't assign myself as the buying agent. So just an FYI, but that I believe autofills, and we'll just check it whenever I pop back out. So we will move that and keep on scanning down. Another thing to remember that is some of the signatures are not going to be autofilled because you don't need it at this time. So like this seller acceptance of counteroffer, we don't want that signed as they're rolling. One, because we're the purchaser, but two, you don't want to have also this certification signed because you know, it might not be that they've received the entire contract if there's a counter. So when there's counters back and forth, you'll be working off of a different document. And so that's why that top page can get a little bit jumbled up. Okay, so we just hit save. And then we would do a share. So that we would say, for example, that we had filled out all of the other documents. So now we share it to Justine, and you want to look at this little guy here. So this is also very important as you're sharing, because sometimes we can get in the habit of, most of the time we only need people to sign, but there are cases where we need them to fill out and sign, like the seller's disclosure. There could be a piece on here that we need to assign to them that they need to sign, but there could be a lot of different places. So always just make sure if there's something that you need from them to fill out, that you do the can fill and sign. I always also attach as a PDF. I do this with a client, and I also do this with other agents to make the other agents' lives easier, because then they can just download out and work within their loop instead of trying to figure out those two loops that I was mentioning earlier. The other reason I like to do this is when I'm sending it to a client, I would enter a message here and talk about how here are the purchase documents with all the terms that we discussed, and please take a look and review and sign and let me know if you have any questions. Because ultimately you really want to make sure that your client understands what they're signing and not just doing a quick click and sign, which we can sometimes run into. So you always want to attach as a PDF, then that way that gives the receiving person the option to view it within Dotloop or view it as a PDF. So we'll just hit share. Now at this point, if I go, oh crap, I didn't mean to have Justine have an option to fill and sign. She just needed to sign. Well, you can change this before they get into it. And now she can only sign. Okay, so we'll pop out of the purchase agreement. And I'm not going to fill out any of the other pieces because I feel like it's a little bit redundant, but as long as you know that this is all of the information that you need to fill out, you're good to go as you keep progressing throughout your transaction documents. I am going to point out just a couple of things on the escrow sheet. We can do an autofill here. It's important also when you do the autofill that you check the price and the information on the escrow sheet, because when you enter in a purchase price on the purchase agreement, Dotloop thinks that that's the sold price. Well, a lot of times, most often, there's negotiations back and forth, and so that's not the final sale price. So I always want to make sure you have your full sale price, all of this top right box filled out, And then what's really important for us is that we have both the purchaser and as much seller information as you have. And then we absolutely need to know selling agent, listing agent, all that jazz. Closing is very helpful for us to know. This piece mostly fits for what you need as an agent and not necessarily what we need on our end, but it is always good to get in the habit of having fully utilized forms. And then the most important piece on the escrow sheet is this commission portion here. Now we have total commission. Now that is if you're on the list side or the buy side. So we're on the buy side. So we have 2.4% is typical.
You can see that we can't, Katie and Raquel say they can't get in.
Interesting.
But Justine and I can't see them.
I don't see them either. You want to maybe send the Zoom link again to them?
Yeah.
We can try that.
Justine's wondering if it's we switched you to the host at the last minute, but I don't think it's
Justine's co-host too, but I
guess
can switch yours. Anyways, sidebar. Sorry, we've got people that are trying to get into the room. So sorry about that, guys. Okay, so let's talk about total commission versus selling agent, listing agent, and all that fun stuff. If you were on the listing side, we need to know what the total commission would be. So that would most likely be 6. And then the selling agent, and then whatever yours would be as well. So you want to make sure that you're filling this out. But as a buy side, we only need to know what your commission is from the listing agent. So we don't need to know what the listing agent's total commission is. We just need to know what yours is. And then any commission notes. So if you're giving $50 to somebody for transactions processing, or if you're made an adjustment and there's something funky on the commissions, you really want to be as detailed as possible in that notes portion. And then I would even double back as a courtesy and send Eden and Alex a quick email just about it so that they have it. They're very much aware of it so that we can get you paid as easily as possible.
Question.
Yes.
So let's say I got a referral from an agent as well. Would I put that in the notes?
Yes.
25% to yada, yada, yada?
Yes, absolutely. Especially that's good. That's a perfect example of, yep, we need to pay a third party that could be outside of our company.
Okay. Cool.
An internet lead. So like Redfin, OpCity, or if it's even a reload lead, then you'll want to put that there as well so that we know that going into it. All right, so I'm going to pop out of this. Now we're going to take a little sidestep and we're going to go through a second portion. So here's a scenario. We sent it, Justine signed it, we sent it to the agent and we're in negotiations, right? And so the other agent sends us their documents. So we're going to pretend that everything that I just took out is going to be our purchase from the other agent. So what we need to do now is we need to get those documents into our loop, and then we need to start being able to assign signatures and initials to our client for obviously to send for signatures. So what you'll do is you'll do add document. And now where we're going to take it from is my computer. And I have kind of a little cheat guy here where I keep all of my downloads. So it's wherever you save it. Each computer is going to be a little bit different. So wherever you save yours, you can drag and drop, or you can browse and it will pull up your computer folders. Okay, so now we've got multiple documents. Usually when you're getting documents from other agents, they're usually not shared separately. So we're going to do 2 things right now. We're going to split documents, and we're also going to add signatures so that we can share this with our agent or our client. Now, I'm going to get into kind of a little best practices habit that I do because I like to, it drives me nuts if I have to hop into a lot of different documents while I'm trying to find an executed portion of it, especially when it comes to purchase side, because there's a lot of sharing back and forth. And so you could have 4 different versions of a purchase agreement and then be pulling your hair out trying to find the last one that you needed. So here's my preference of what I do is I'm going to archive this. And I'm also going to archive my affiliate and my wire fraud because I know that I've sent those to the other party to sign. So we'll archive this and we will archive this. So these 3 documents that are left here, these are documents that are never shared with another party. And so we can leave those in there the entire time. In fact, if you wanted to move those ahead of time, you could. Okay, so we're going to pop into our multiple documents here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different documents. Imagine these all have signatures, they're different. So we're going to use our imagination here. So now we need to just split into separate documents so that we can decide which ones we want to share to our clients for signatures. So just go top here, file, split document. Like I was counting ahead, we just need to know how many documents we're doing. And then the great thing about Dotloop is you just scan down and it tells me what page I'm at over on the right. So this first one is new. And then we change this. We know it's just 1 page, so it's page 1 to 1. And then scan down to your next one, which is going to be our purchase agreement. So we can see over here, it's number 2. So I'm just going to do the A, do seller signed. Now we need to scan through and see where it ends. So we've got page 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to count aloud like it's Sesame Street. All right. So this goes down to page 11. So you want to do page 2 to 11. There we go. And it shifts everything else. So we'll scan down. We know our agency is going to be 2 pages. We'll just pop in. Agency or escrow news. Well, there you go. So it's going to be 12 to 13. There we go. Now what I'm going to do with these is, let's say it's a repeat share of a different document that I already have. So I'm just going to do this. Archive, archive, archive. So I'm labeling these so when I split it, I'm back into my main page, my main loop, and that way I know which one's which. Trust me, I've labeled it the same before and it took 3 times as long to try to figure out which one was which. Drove me a little nuts. Okay, so we will pop back into our main loop. This is going to take us to all of these. Okay, so now I have my archives, so I'm going to immediately get rid of those. I don't even want to see them. And there's an archive button up top if you need to do multiple. So they're gone. And then something to just notice is that multiple documents that you saw before, that archived itself because Dotloop knows, why would you need this big chunk of a document when we split all of them out into chunks that you're going to use? So that's archived, but it never disappears. So in case, and it happens every once in a while, you know, we're glancing through and we get a page wrong and we've got to redo all of them. Never goes away. So we have all of our other documents here. Now what I'm going to show you is a drag and drop. So I'm going to grab this new one and we're going to put it on top of the escrow sheet. And it asks us if we want to replace it. Yes, I do. And what that does is it renames it, which is nice. The other one, it archives the old version. So again, if you ever have to get back to an old version of a document, you will never lose anything. Dotloop does not allow anything to be deleted, even if it's an accidental add, which does drive me a little bit nuts, but that's a sidebar. So I'll do agency again. I'll pop that over there. And there we go. Okay, so now we need to click this little guy because we're going to add signatures for our buyer to now sign, let's say the counter. So we'll scan down. I've forgotten which page counter's on. Been a minute, huh? Okay, so we'll say we're gonna counter, or the counter's there. We're going to add a text. I always make mine as big as the box because it will add the little personal preference. My OCD pops out is basically what it is. I always make it as big as the box. Okay, and then, I don't know, purchase price to be. Okay, so now what we need to do is add signature. I put it in the wrong spot, you guys. Okay. We're gonna scan down a little bit more because I went to the seller's piece, not the purchasers. We're gonna delete that guy. And here's where we would add our text again. Okay. You can fill in all of these other pieces, which I obviously recommend. So you can either add a text here, put a text here, or you can add a date. So here, nice thing is that Dotloop already dates everything for you. Okay, so now we're going to add an initial. Okay, and we need to assign the field. You're going to pop up top so that you can assign at this portion here. So that's assigned to Justine. Now let's say we have another buyer. So let's add another initial. You can add at any time. I'll just throw mine on there. Okay, and I can sign now if I wanted to. Okay, now we need to add the signature, even though it popped onto the other page, which is a little bit annoying. It's all right, they're redoing the purchase agreement at the board level. They're just taking a little bit longer than they anticipated with COVID. So there will be a new purchase agreement coming out that kind of combines the best of both worlds from Lincoln to Omaha. So just an FYI. We're going to assign, we're going to go back up to Justine, and there we go. So now we're going to do a save and share. Justine can sign, we don't need anything else, and we just click share. You can add a message. I always recommend it, unless they're right there and you know that they're going to see it. Otherwise, it's just kind of courteous to add, to just add from there. All right, we're going back. So we shared it, we're all good to go. Now let's use this example and say everyone is signed, this is final, everything is good to go. Now we need to submit it to admin transactions so that they can make sure that we have everything ready to go. Looks like we've got a couple chats here. Len. Yes, Jane, you can use the 4949 Underwood as you're playing around with the loop. And then using attach as PDF, yes, is also helpful in sharing documents. All right, so now we're going to get our executed documents into our final documents so that we can have transactions tell us what we missed or give us the big old thumbs up. So what you'll do is you'll drag this PA, drag it over on top of the purchase agreement. And now you can see that it's dark. So now that it's black versus grayed out, you now know that this is a live document. And the other great thing about it is that it changed the name. So you don't have to worry about changing the name for our end so that we can identify it. Once you get it into those placeholders, it will do that for you. So grab our escrow sheet, get our cost sheet here, agency. Oops. Okay, and normally I would have a couple of others because we need seller's disclosure, wire fraud. You know, we're using our imagination today. Okay, so the other good thing I like about this too is that it gives you a visual checklist. So you no longer need, say, a checklist that you're actually checking off right next to it. This gives you that ability to see it, especially when you're going back and forth in transactions too. Sometimes you'll get an addendum that's shared that is maybe a commission or a price change, and you'll be able to kind of pop through this and go, oh, that's right, I had a commission change. I need to get that in from my email and into my Dotloop. So now if we have our full piece here, we're going to submit to transactions for review. So up here at the top is this little teeny tiny submit for review button. So if you click that, it's going to ask you which ones to select or which you would like to submit. We only ever want to submit that final documents because admin never needs to see your working file. That's for you. That's like, you know, when you're having somebody come over to your house and you shove everything into the closet that you don't want them to see. The final docs is what you want us to see and see the cleaned up, tidy, buttoned up version of all of your documents. So select a type and it's just review because we're doing purchase. And then you just submit. Okay, so then you can see we're submitting. When you get notifications back, you'll get them in 2 ways. So let's say you missed a signature on the purchase agreement. You'll get an email that asks you for it, and you'll also get notes here from any admin. You can also directly message to your clients ahead of time or while you're through the transaction if you want to keep all of your communication in one spot for future reference. The other thing I want to point out as we're looking within kind of the core of our loop is this little people button here. So what's great about this is that you can see there's little numbers next to it. So that will tell you who it's actually been shared with. So you know very quickly if something's been missed. So say everything has ones here and we're like, oh, you know what? I only shared that purchase agreement. I suppose I need to share that on to the next. So you can see it's shared with Justine and with admin and that these others are shared with admin. So you know when it's been submitted, you'll see that it's been shared with admin, so you don't have to worry about sending it again. Okay, any questions about the purchase, loop, templates, filling in, auto-filling, filling in signatures, adding signatures, submitting, all good stuff? All right, here we go.
I do have one question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
When you got the multiple folder file in your loop, did that come from your document? So they sent it to you that way? Is that the only way that you'll get a multiple folder is if they send it to you that way and you download it? Or
yeah. Okay. Correct. So I took just kind of a random document and put them together, but you will get in the back and forth, you'll get that a lot where you'll have either people that don't use Dotloop that email it to you, or like right now, I would say my best practice is to take it out of their email and put it into the loop that you want to use. And that's why I like having the picture. I like having, you know, whether it be my name or not my name, the client's name, so that I know that this is my loop, not the other agent's loop. And then you can work from downloading their stuff out and putting it into yours. Otherwise, it can get tricky bouncing back and forth. But I'll show you, you know, I don't think I'm going to get into merge loops today. I'll do that on kind of a tips and tricks one. But yes, that's the only way that you'll get that is if someone sends it to you outside of Dotloop. Okay. You can also, there's kind of a little hack and a workaround. So let's say you forgot to add something to the purchase agreement. If you start typing on that purchase agreement, it's going to erase all of the signatures. So there is a workaround, so you don't have to redo all of it, is you could download that purchase agreement out and drop it back in. So then it's a flat document, and then you can add your text box, your initial, or your signature. And that can come in handy. I don't recommend it unless your client knows about it, obviously, because we don't ever want to be changing documents that have already been fully executed. The good thing is that Dotloop can see all of our history, so they know everything that we do is tracked. So I'll show you that really quick, actually. So if you click these little buttons on the right, and if you go to history, you can see everything that's happened. You can also revert to a previous version. So let's say, I've done it a couple of times where it's been, let's say I accidentally erased signatures because I was typing something in, accidentally clicked yes, erase signatures and panicked. You can come down here and go to a previous version to get that back. Now the other thing, I don't know why, this might be my favorite feature of Dotloop that never gets used because we don't need it anymore. But I will tell you that once or twice a year that you have to fax over something to someone, you just go, oh my God, I don't even know. I got to go to Kinko's. I pay $3 a page or whatever it is. You can fax from Dotloop. So if you just click fax, you can put your fax number in there. It creates a cover sheet and it sends it right over.
Interesting.
For whatever reason, I just love that feature. Probably because I had to do 12 pages of something that needed to be faxed for like health insurance a few years ago before I found out that that was there, and it was like $30 to do. And it was a hassle. Okay, so this is again kind of your core of your loop, and then your task list if you want to dive into that. But I think what we'll do is we will go back out, and I'm going to pop in a listing. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I'm going to pop into a quick listing because I want to show you how to bulk assign signatures for when you send them to clients. Because on the seller's disclosure, when you're doing a purchase agreement, that's almost never has your seller's signatures on it. And I don't think, I probably did it in reverse. I don't think you necessarily need to have too much more information on your listing than a couple of things. So I'm not going to get into the details of say, create or, you know, updating documents and autofilling and sharing. What I am going to do is show you a few differences and a few things to keep in mind as you're doing a listing loop. So we'll do this again. I'm just going to add a loop. We'll still do the 4949 Underwood. Okay, I can also change this here if I know that I'm not attaching to, say, an MLS. Okay, so I know what I'm doing. Okay. All right, continue. I need a listing template. This is where I would add my photo. Taking its time, and then view loop. Okay, I always start at the top. We'll just call this an active listing. So a couple of things. Obviously, your listing folder is going to look a lot different when it comes to the documents that are required, but there are still a lot that are similar. Always going to have your escrow sheet, agency. This is net sheet versus cost sheet. And then this one, obviously, we've got seller's disclosure that they fill out. So again, a couple things I want to point out. Your lip sheet, there are items on here. This is called your listing input. I guess I don't even know what the lip stands for anymore. Listing input profile. And there are, anything with an asterisk means we need that info before we can process your transaction. So keep in mind, if you send something in as a listing that needs to be input, say today, you want to, one, make sure that you fill out all of those little asterisk boxes. And then two, you want to keep on top of your messages, because admin will use Dotloop to send you a message if there's something that's missing. That means that they cannot upload it into the MLS. So it's good to pay attention to that, you know, as we get throughout our day, and then it becomes 6 or 7 o'clock at night and we're looking for a listing and realize that, nope, not there, because admin needed a critical piece of information that we could not physically push through. We don't go searching for that information because we don't want to ever make assumptions on your transactions. And so it always has to come from you guys. The other thing, when you're submitting your listing folder, you want to send your document or your photos to our wonderful transactions at betteromaha.com, because we like to take pride in how your clients' listings are hitting the internet, because internet sells everything, we want your photos to be there when it hits all of the feeds. So a lot of different companies will make you upload your own photos, and that can cause some kinks in, one, the flow of how your day goes and how your transaction goes. But also, a lot of times clients won't go back to those listings that don't have photos. And so you've missed an opportunity, the best opportunity, when you hit all of those feeds, to have your listing as buttoned up and ready to go as possible. So you want to send those, we'll upload those for you. If you want to have access to and create your own listings within the MLS, we can do that. Just shoot me an email and we can get you set up for that. And then you bypass the lip sheet, but you still have to submit for review the documents that are needed. So really quickly, because I know for time's sake, I don't want to keep you guys forever. Another really quick thing is our sign, install, and removal request. You always want to make sure that that is submitted to our signed email. Otherwise, we do not see that it exists. So it is signs at Better Omaha. You want to send that and make sure that we have it the day before. Trips, sign installs start at $15 in and out, but it is worth it because Tom and I have definitely put a few of those signs in the ground, and it is like watching, it's one of those jokes. How many realtors does it take to put a sign in the ground? Okay, we're going to take this out and I'm going to pop back into my purchase loop because I want to add signatures to it and initials. I'm going to bulk do that. Okay, so I add here. Again, wherever you add from your computer is where you're going to add that. I'm going to click on this here, and let's say, so now every time buyer needs to obviously sign an initial. So we need to add initials here. And again, my OCD is going to come out. I'm going to make it the same size. Okay. I'm going to add another initial because I want to show you how to bulk. Went the wrong way. Okay, now that we've got that pretty well there, we're going to assign this to Justine. We're going to assign this one to me. And now, let's assign it to somebody else so we can see. I'm going to assign it to Audra. Okay, so we have them assigned. In another one, I'll tell you how you can make these boxes exactly lined up because there is a way that you can, grid them out. But the seller's disclosure is a lot of pages. And so to do this independently takes a very long time. To do it the way that I'm going to show you how to do it is going to make your life a lot more simple. So I dragged and basically caught both of those. I'm going to click these little 4 boxes up here and I'm going to group it. Now we're going to use keystrokes here. So if you can see on the bottom right, there's little commands that popped up. So I want to copy this bundle. And so I need to do Control-Shift-C. So do Control-Shift-C, okay? We're gonna scan down here. I need to throw it over here again. And now we need to paste, which is Control-Shift-V. And now I have both, oh, it didn't catch both my initials. Of course it didn't. Group, into group. Okay, let's see if it does it this time. Of course, when I'm trying to do it. There we go. Okay, so now we have both of them and we can just drag and drop. Okay, do this again. And we'll just do it again down here just because. Okay, there you go. So that's the easy way to do, to assign a lot of different initials for a document. Okay, and then I would save and share. Okay, any questions? So I kind of popped through a lot of different things. And then also, Justine, if I've missed anything that's kind of that's a good to know piece.
Excuse me. Well, I do know Paula had raised her hand, so I don't know, Paula, do you still have a question that you want to ask?
Yes, sorry. Sorry, I
ahead.
don't want to interrupt Leslie.
Oh, go for it, anytime. I'm used to it.
Okay, so my question was to clarify. I have some clients who sometimes like to take their time when I ask them to sign stuff, but I'd like to send stuff over to admin. Is that something that they prefer, admin prefers to have all at once? That way they're not going back through final documents folder constantly? Or is it okay to be sending document per document as I'm getting it signed by clients?
It depends. So if it's something that we need to have, that needs action on, so say it's a listing that you need input, we would much rather have you submit it for review without, say, even a listing signature or the seller's disclosure, because then transactions can start working on that sooner than later. So in that case, you would send it as a submit for review. You would let us know, say, hey, I need this listing to go live a little bit later today. I'm waiting on signatures, but anticipate them to be soon or tomorrow, but wanted to give you a heads up that here's all the other information that you need. Then that way, if you're not waiting on them all day and you're like, it's 4:30 and you wanted it now, I've missed my window because transactions, cuts off, you can send it anytime ahead of it. And I really highly encourage doing that. And that's why you'll get the mom look from me if it's like, oh, I need this, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I need this put in today. When did you know about this listing? And I'm not trying to be mean about it because we all get busy, but if we all get in the habit of sending things as we're doing them, then it makes it a lot easier. And so my thought process is that, did you have a listing appointment this morning and they want it in right now? Not typically. Usually we have a few days notice when it comes to listings, at least, if not more. And so don't feel bad, even if you're submitting it a week in advance. They're just not ready to list, because those can stay in partials on the MLS until the end of time. It really doesn't matter that much, but it's nice to have on our end to have that extra time to be able to do that. Now, if on the other hand, sorry, I didn't answer your question fully. So if it's something that has to do with listing or something that we need, or it's getting very, very close to closing and it's a document that we're waiting for, then submit as you go. If it's like you're waiting for the affiliated business or the other side is getting slow on something, as long as you've already submitted the folder to us once, you can wait for those supplemental ones, unless we're bugging you. Sometimes we bug you about stuff, but you can wait and then just submit when you have, say, a more full packet of signed documents.
Okay. That was it. That was what I had. Thank you.
One thing I like to point out with the submission process is that kind of going off of your question, Paula, as far as submitting the final documents folder multiple times, just so that you know on your end, it only submits like new and updated documents to us. So if we've already approved something, it's not going to submit all 10 documents again to us for review. Because I know sometimes that's been a concern of, agents I've spoken with. They don't want us to have to re-review every single thing in the entire folder, which it's not the case. Dotloop knows like what has been updated or what's new and only has us review that. So hopefully that makes sense. But I always like to get some clarification on that.
Gina asks, do you have buyers, clients fill in their own current address in the purchase agreement? You can. I mean, that's personal preference, I think. You know, if you're doing a list buy, it's easy to kind of have that. But yeah, or you can get it ahead of time, because a lot of times we already have it. One, because we want to have our CRMs up to date, and so we should be getting that purchase or their previous address. And so you can have that auto-filled ahead of time if you like. All right, anything else? One other thing I'll point out, if there's no questions, is to download the Dotloop app, because it is a really great resource. I've written contracts entirely on the Dotloop app. The other thing you can do on the app is you can add a document that is basically taking a picture of, say, an in-person signing. You can take a picture of that and it will add it to your loop as a PDF. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know. Dotloop support, if you scan all the way down to the bottom here, if you go to that help center, they have a lot of videos and just general trainings that you can do kind of based on what you're at here. So it even walks through a first loop, but you know, we kind of like to walk you through how we like to do it too. So, but anytime if you're curious about different things, feel free to pop into Dotloop support as well. All right, well, I think we are all set. So, oh wait, more chats? All right, perfect. Well, that's all, you guys. Good to see you guys. If you have any questions, again, I'll say that for the 16,000th time. It's like trying to get off a phone call, right? Like, no, you say bye. No, you say bye. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Leslie.
Bye-bye.